everyone, how are you all doing? I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel and to Living in a Fantasy, which is a series that I decided to create in order to help people who are either going through the application process of becoming a crew member at some point, or if it's something that you're looking to do in the future, because for me, there was no information out there anywhere, so I wanted to be your source of information for everything to do with Disney Cruise Line. So if you want to check out the video that I've already made about everything that you can expect from the application process to Embarkation Day, go and check that out. I will leave it below in the playlist that I'm going to create for this. And then this video is going to be about your first 2 weeks on board, so what you could expect from that and everything that you're going to go through when you first embark on the ship as a new crew member. So keep watching to find out everything that you're going to need to know. So if you watched my first video, you will know, for me personally, my embark day was on a Saturday on June the 30th, which was around 2.5 years ago by now. And generally on your embark day, depending on what day it is, depending on what ship you're on, it's going to be the same process, I'm assuming. It doesn't differ very much, but generally speaking, you go through a security process, you get your luggage and everything checked, and then you get taken somewhere by your HR manager guy that's going to look after you that day, actually that whole week, and they're going to go through a lot of things. Be prepared for a lot of information to be thrown at you, and you're going to have to really pay attention all the time that you're doing your HR training, because it is a lot. You're going to be very overwhelmed. It's going to be scary and overwhelming anyway, because you're going to be on a cruise ship possibly for the first time, like with me. You're going to be away from home and doing things that you haven't ever experienced before. You're going to experience different levels of tiredness that you've never experienced before, and all of that combined with everything to do with ship life that you definitely cannot prepare for unless you've been on a cruise ship as a guest before. And it's just very, very overwhelming. It's going to be an information overload, but I promise you it gets so much easier. After about a month, it's going to come second nature to you. You're not going to lose your way around the ship anymore like I did. You're going to slowly take in all of the information that you learned in HR weeks. But when you first go on board, I know for me, I was very overwhelmed. You get a lot of information thrown at you, and you're expected to learn all of it pretty quickly, because not only are you starting a new job, you're having to learn about everything to do with Disney Cruise Line, having to learn everything to do with your job that you're specifically going on the ship for. But also, on top of all of that, you have to learn about everything there is to know about cruise ships and how to be on the ship safely and everything that you need to do in an emergency. So it's a lot, but it gets so much easier, I promise. But on your first day of being on the ship, it's basically like just you soaking up everything that you need to know about Disney Cruise Line and experiencing the ship for the first time and going around and just, yeah, taking it all in. So for me, after we did all the security process and everything, we got taken to the room, the crew training room with the HR guy. And you do a lot of PowerPoints and safety training and HR training, and things like that. You get your ID taken and everything like that, so people know that that's who you are and that you're allowed to work there and everything like that. You do a ship tour, which is very exciting. So you're gonna get taken around backstage and on stage and see the important areas backstage that you're gonna know about, and then on stage as well, you get to go around all the really exciting areas and experience all the things that you're gonna get to do throughout the whole time on your ship. But yeah, and then it was raining when it was my ship tour, so that was fun, which also meant that the sail away that you usually get to go and see wasn't an outdoor sail away, which is very unfortunate. It was indoors, but you do get to do sail away as well, which is very exciting. That, if you haven't done a cruise before, for Disney Cruise Line at least, it's basically a little celebration that they usually have out on deck, but for us it was in the atrium, where they have all of the characters and they just get you really hyped up and ready for your ship vacation, and they do a little countdown and then they set off the Mickey horn, and you're away on your vacation. But yeah, that was really fun, and for me that's when it really sunk in that there was no going back now, because the ship is literally sailing away and I have nothing to do about it unless I run out onto deck 4 and jump over the side. But then they'd have to deal with a Mr. Mob, so that's probably not the best thing to do. That day is very exciting. You're going to be very tired and overwhelmed because you are getting overloaded with some information. You have a lot of formalities to go through and like a lot of information to learn straight away on that day. You have like a really long safety familiarization thing that everybody gets to go to, as well as your own like HR and safety classes that you do. And then, yes, for me, the day finished quite early. It got taken away by one of the managers in my department, which is youth activities, who is the service excellence trainer, which for Disney Cruise Line is basically like the person within your department, say entertainment or housekeeping or food and beverage, that is going to train you generally about your job and other things that you have to do, like paperwork and things like that, before you go on to do your on-the-job training with your trainer. So this person took us to costuming, and we got fitted for our costumes, and then we got given our costumes and everything to take back to our cabins, and then we were done for the day. I don't know, I'm guessing it's the same for every department, that you all go and get your costumes with your trainer or whatever you're doing. So yeah, that's generally what you do on your first day. Then after your first day on board, you have a lot of getting up early, a lot of PowerPoints, a lot of information overload, like I said, that you would experience. You have a lot of people from different departments coming in, like security and environmental people and HR, and then you get to do a meet the steering committee thing, where you get to meet all of the big important people from the steering committee and the captain, which is very scary. The captain we had at the time was, I believe, Captain Marco, and he loves sports, so he was just asking all of us about our sports teams, which for me was, he was like, oh, Wales, right? They're not very big on football, are they? And I'm like, no. And he's like, rugby, right? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, how is that? So I'm just there talking to the captain about rugby, which was weird. But yeah, that's what we did within that week. We also had to do a lot of not so fun stuff, like a urine sample at medical to make sure that you're not doing drugs. You also had to do life raft training, which is what everybody does when they re-embark on the ship, not just new hires, which is basically where you learn about what you do in emergency situations and where you would end up going as a crew member. So you'd end up on a life raft and all of the things that were involved in the life raft, and how to like set the life raft off into the water and all of this stuff, which is a lot of information to take in. And after 4 contracts and being an assembly team member at some point in my 4th contract, I still get confused with a lot of that, so that's fun. Don't worry, never gets easier. You do a lot of more job-specific stuff to your job. So I know I did a lot of tours of the spaces that I was going to be working in, and you got to have some floor time, so you may do that as well. You might do some shadowing or something, but we got left either in the capable hands of a trainer, or our manager would walk around with us and let us just kind of hang out with the kids, or just watch programs, or just experience the spaces and talk to different counsellors, and just sort of take a feel for what the environment was going to be like that we were going to be working in. You also do electronics testing, where you go and get all your electronics that you're going to be using tested to get them tagged to make sure that they're a-okay. Basically all of really boring stuff that you're going to need to do, you get done in that first week. And like I said, a lot of more job specific stuff where you learn about the more HR and safety protocols and everything to do with your job, but then you also get on top of that the HR and safety lessons within the crew training room, which some of it is tested, so pay attention. I know it's going to be very, very boring because you're learning so much all day, every day, for a week straight, and it's crazy hours that you're up in the morning, and sometimes it's just, you just want to sleep in that room because it's dark and warm and cozy, and you have certain HR or safety people yelling at you being like, don't fall asleep, you're not allowed, and they'd be like, I'm watching you. So you're going to want to fall asleep. You may fall asleep. It's going to be hard, but you're going to get through it, and it's going to be fine. I promise you, you're going to be okay. It's going to be overwhelming, like I said, but it's all worth it at the end of the day. It's not something that you absolutely have to have every single knowledge that you need to know memorised in that first week. There's still things that you're going to be learning about weeks, even months later, even maybe into your second contract that you may not have known about. So yeah, don't worry too much if you don't know everything. You will learn more of it. Maybe if you're not a person that learns things by it being like talked at you. Like for me, I'm a visual person. I need to be able to see it in motion. So for me, a lot of the time, I would eventually see it after hearing it from PowerPoints and things like that and being like, oh, well, that's what that means. It makes a lot more sense once you actually see it in practice. And then you have immigration at some point, which is usually the first American port of your itinerary. So for me, it's either Port Canaveral or St. Thomas on the Disney Fantasy. I don't know what it is on other ships. I know obviously on the Dream it's going to be Port Canaveral to get your I-95 to be able to go off in American ports if you're not American. And it's a wild time, but it's important that you get that because otherwise you can't get off in American ports. And yes, so for me it's St. Thomas, which is on a Wednesday on one of our, I think it's Eastern Cruise, and then on the Western Cruise it's Port Canaveral, so that's on a Saturday. So yeah, that's a very important process. It's going to be very boring. You're not allowed to use your phones. You have to sit there waiting and waiting and waiting until it's your time to go up and queue to get your I-95, which is kind of scary because it's very intimidating, but that's important. So make sure that you are on time to that and that you go to it because it's not going to be good otherwise. Also, don't lose it. Please look after that small piece of paper because if you do, you have to pay a lot of dollars to be able to get another one. I think it's like $300 or $400, maybe even $500 to get that replaced. So look after it. So that's an important part of your training week. And then you go to Castaway Key. So for me, that's on a Friday. The day before we go back to Port Canaveral. It's changed because of the weather and everything and the possibility that you might not even get to dock in Castaway Key or the waves are too crazy. But usually you're supposed to do a wet drill on Castaway, which is what I did, which is basically where you learn everything to do with life rafts and like the different things that you're going to need to do in certain situations, like bunching up together and like staying afloat, putting on your life jacket, taking off your life jacket, wearing an immersion suit, jumping in and out of the water, going in the life raft, flipping the life raft, which is very scary, let me tell you, when you're 5'4.5" and don't have much upper body strength. But yes, that's usually what happens on Castaway Key, or it did. It's changed. So yes, wet drill is usually done at Mickey's Retreat a couple days before your traditions, I believe, in Florida now. But yes, it used to be on Castaway Key, but for us, for a long period of time, it was always in Florida that you did that because of the weather, because we went through a period of time during the autumn winter in 2019, 2018 into 2019, and then a lot of 2019 that it was so stormy, so it wasn't ever a guarantee that we would even get to Castaway Key, and then if we did it would be raining or the waves would be super big, so it wasn't safe. So that's generally what they used to do. So that's what happened for me. It might not happen for you. It could, depending on the time of year. And then we got to do a tour of Castaway Key. So yeah, for us it was a very brief version of the Castaway Key tour because it was very, very, very hot. And then they take you to the beach barbecue in the crew beach, which is so cool because it's really good, yummy food and it's barbecue food, and you're on an island and you get to experience crew beach for the first time, and it's just like, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe I get to live on a ship and then work here occasionally. So yeah, that's what we get to do. And then for us in YA, we get taken away from the group and we get a tour of the youth activity spaces on the island. And for this we change into our yellows, our costume. And yeah, that's basically what you do. And then from that point onwards, you go and you meet your trainer and you go and do on-the-job training for a week, which I will talk about in another video next time where I talk about my job. But yes, generally speaking, that's what you will experience. It's a lot of information. You will get overwhelmed. You will probably feel very stressed, but it's okay. You're all in the same boat, literally. Everybody's going through that. Everybody's been through that at some point. Talk to people. They've all been there before. They can give you advice. They always say give it a month before deciding what you want to do, because ship life is going to be up and down all the time. That's what our HR guy Dave told us, and that always was in my mind every time that I felt like it was getting too much. It's going to be a lot, but you can do it. It's going to be worth it in the end. For the most part, it's going to feel like the craziest thing you've ever done for the first month, and then it'll be like, oh my god, why haven't I been doing this sooner? Because it's a lot of fun, and you get paid to travel around the world and see amazing places and work with the most amazing people you're gonna meet in your life, and see the joy that is on the guests' faces when they're on a Disney cruise. And it's worth it. All of the stress of the first 2 weeks of being on the ship, of getting lost, of having information overload, of feeling like your brain is going to explode because you don't know how much more you can take. I promise you it's worth it in the end, and you will get through it. And yes, if you would like to see more content like this from me, please subscribe to my channel. Like the video if you liked hearing about what you can expect on the first couple weeks of your time on board the Disney Cruise Line ships. And yes, I'll see you next time in the next video, which is going to be about my job. So if that isn't something that is going to be of interest to you, that's okay. I have more content coming in the Living in a Fantasy series. It's going to be just about the ship in general, but if you want to hear more about youth activities, stick around for the next video because that is what's going to be coming up next. So yeah, see you real soon!